Hi everyone, I'm going to show you how to make my tasty beef stew. I'm cutting up the beef here. I like to wear gloves when I'm cutting any kind of meat. I don't like my hands to contaminate the meat, so I make sure I wear gloves all the time. This is called bone marrow. It's a bone marrow from the cow, and in our country we like to fry it and eat it. So this is what it looks like, and inside here is the bone marrow. So I've already washed this and I've seasoned it, and I will fry it after I finish cooking the beef stew, and I'll add this after frying this. I'll add it into the pot. So here's the beef all chopped up, and I've seasoned it with half a teaspoon of all the spices that I've used, which is salt, black pepper, paprika. I've added a little bit of allspice seasoning and a little bit, quarter teaspoon of dry thyme. If you've got that, that will make it very tasty. If not, just add Italian seasoning, a quarter teaspoon, and just mix it up. So this is a whole tomato. I've already washed it, and I'm going to chop it up. I use this to fry it up. All of these I'll be putting in this bowl. You can see the bowl. I'm putting the tomato in the bowl. I like to use a whole tomato because it gives the stew a great flavor. And this is my garlic. I bought this from Costco. It's Kirkland, and it said minced California garlic. So that's a whole tomato. And then I'm going to use, I like to use a lot of garlic when I'm cooking. So I'm going to use about a tablespoon of garlic. And I always keep this in the fridge. And this is green onions. I always buy them. I'm going to chop them up and put them in the freezer. I'm going to use about a handful of that into the bowl. And this is onions. I bought a 10-pound bag of onions, and I chopped it up, and I put them in the freezer bag. Sorry, I put them in a bag and I put them in the freezer. So whenever I'm ready to use it, I have it all chopped up. And so as you can see, it's all frozen. So I've cut off a piece of the onion, and I'm going to use all of this because I like to use a lot of spices and seasoning in my stew. I like to use carrots, so I'm just going to peel this carrot off, take off the sides. And I've rinsed it, and I'm just going to chop it up. So I cut up the carrots in small pieces, and as you can see in the bowl, I have all my seasoning. This is my pressure cooker that I'll be using because I need to pressure the beef so that it's soft. I added a tablespoon of water because I don't like to use oil because the beef itself gives off oil. And here I've thrown in all the seasoning that was in the bowl, and I'm just going to stir it up. Let it cook for a little bit until everything basically melts. So I'm just going to stir this up a bit. So let it continue cooking for a few more minutes. Like I said, until everything just basically melts down, so you can keep an eye on it. So the seasoning is sort of melted down, and I'm going to add the bone marrow to the pot. I want to cook that first, and I'm going to give it a quick stir. I've given it a quick stir, so I'm going to let it cook for about 5 to 8 minutes on both sides, because this the jelly in the bone marrow is very sensitive, so you can't overcook it or it's just going to shrink and there won't be any in there for you to eat. I grew up eating this, and if you research it, you'll find that the bone marrow of a cow is very good and healthy for your body. I gave the bone marrow another stir. Bone marrow has a lot of nutrient benefits. It supports joint function, decreases inflammation, promotes skin health. It contains stem cells that develop into red blood cells, white blood cells, or platelets, which are involved in oxygen transportation, immune function, and blood clotting. So if you want to give it a try, I would suggest you try it this way. Just cut up some seasoning and fry it up until you see the inside of it looks firm. It wouldn't be that sort of jelly substance, but more of a firm substance. As you can see, I'll bring the camera a little closer. The substance, the inside of it, the jelly part, is not as white as it should be, and it's not quite cooked. So I've taken the bone marrow out of the pot and I've placed it in this bowl, and I'm going to add the beef to the balance of the seasoning that's in the pot. So I added the beef to the pot. I'm going to let that cook for a bit, and then I'm going to add some more little spices, and I'll show you as I go along. So I've got 4 cloves, and I'm going to add that to the pot. I've added the cloves to the pot. You can see it's cooking. And I like to add a little bit of taco seasoning. So I'm just going to add that to the pot, to the meat mixture. Make sure it's all in there. Sorry guys, you might hear the noise, but I've got my fan on, because if I don't, my phone camera will fog up. I'm just going to stir this and let it cook for a bit. I like to add some spaghetti sauce. I'm using a 3/4 bottle of spaghetti sauce, and I'm just going to pour it in. I've added half a cup of water to this jar because the spaghetti sauce is at the bottom, and I like to use up every bit of it. I'm just going to let it cook a bit. I'm going to stir it up and let this cook a bit until I put the top on and let it pressure so the meat can get softened. Once it starts bubbling, you can taste it to see if you need to add more salt to it. The taste depends on how much salt you like. So I don't like to cook with a lot of salt, but my husband does, and he usually adds salt to the food, to any food he eats. So I've been yelling at him lately to stop doing that because it raises your blood pressure. But does he listen? No. As you can see, it's bubbling, and in a few minutes I'm going to place the cover on and pressure the meat. I added another half a cup of water so that the meat doesn't burn when it pressures. Here I've placed the cover on, so we'll just wait for it to start pressuring. I usually let it pressure for 5 minutes, check the meat, and if it needs to add more water, I'll add about another 1/4 cup and let it pressure again for another 5 minutes, because my pressure cooker works really fast, some others don't. So I would say depends on if you use a pressure cooker, time it well. It's been about 6 minutes, so I'm letting the steam out so that it doesn't blow up, because I remember my mom, she's old school, and first time she used a pressure cooker, she didn't know she had to let the steam out, and when she took the cover off, the whole thing blew up in front of her. She wasn't hurt, thank God. So I'm going to test this piece to see how soft it is. And probably needs pressuring more. Yeah, it's still a little bit hard, so I'm gonna pressure it a little bit more. So it's almost done. I'm just gonna add some potatoes that I've cut up, peeled and cut up. So in this bag, I've got some squash that I've peeled and chopped up and put in the freezer. I'm just gonna add it to the pot. My husband likes squash in stew. So let that cook a bit. It's frozen, so that's okay. It'll melt and it'll give it a nice flavor. I'm also gonna add the marrow bone because it's 3/4 way cooked. And just stir it in. I'll let the flavors of the stew blend in with the bone marrow. And I'll cover it back and let it pressure for a bit. Once it starts pressuring, I'm going to turn the stove off and just leave it there, and everything will cook. I'll show you what it looks like after. So I've taken it out the pot and I'm going to test it. It's very soft, very soft, as you can see. So this is the finished meal.